Hello, it is I, your grandfather, or Papa, or El Jefe, whichever you prefer to call me. Um, and I have another new story for you. This one is called The Emperor's New Clothes. So I think you'll like it. Put a lot of time and effort into it. And uh, excuse me for just 1 second, okay? I got to take, my phone is buzzing. Hang on, hang on. Hello? Uh huh. Okay. I'll wait. Okay. Oh. Oh. Hi, Santa. How are you? You need my help. What would you like me to do? Oh. No, I can't do that. No, I can't be on the sleigh. You know I'm afraid of heights. You, I, I, I I know you're desperate, but I'm terrified of heights. I mean, is there? And you don't have seatbelts. All right. Well, I'm the only one. I'm your last hope. Okay. Oh, all right. What time will you be by? Okay. All right. I'll be ready. All right. Bye-bye. Okay, sorry about that. Anyway, so the story is going to be interesting, I think. Uh, it, I think you'll like it. So I'm going to stop talking. Oh, I forgot to say, and welcome to Story Time with Grandpa. All right. And here we go with the movie. The Emperor's New Clothes by Hans Christian Andersen. Many years ago, there was an emperor who was so excessively fond of new clothes that he spent all his money buying new clothes. He did not trouble himself in the least about his soldiers, nor did he care to go to the theater unless it gave him an opportunity to show off his new clothes. He had a different suit for each hour of the day, and as of any other king or emperor, one is accustomed to say, "He is sitting in council." It was always said of him, "The emperor is sitting in his closet." Time passed merrily in the large town which was his capital. Strangers arrived every day at the court. One day, two scoundrels, calling themselves weavers, made their appearance. They told everyone that they knew how to weave fabric of the most beautiful colors and elaborate patterns. The clothes made from the fabric would remain invisible to everyone who was unfit for the office he held or who was extraordinarily simple in character. "These must indeed be splendid clothes," thought the emperor. "Had I such a suit, I might at once find out what men in my realms are unfit for their office, and also be able to distinguish the wise from the foolish. This stuff must be woven for me immediately." And he caused large sums of money to be given to both the weavers in order that they might begin their work directly. So the two scoundrels set up two looms and pretended to work very busily, though in reality they did nothing at all. They asked for the most delicate silk and the purest gold thread, which they would hide away in their own suitcases. By the way, this is called stealing. Very bad. And then continued their pretended work at the empty looms until late at night. "I should like to know how the weavers are getting on with my cloth," said the emperor to himself, after some little time had elapsed. He was, however, rather embarrassed when he remembered that a simpleton, or one unfit for his office, would be unable to see the fabric. To be sure, he thought he had nothing to risk in his own person, but yet he would rather send somebody else to bring him intelligence about the weavers and their work before he troubled himself in the affair. All the people throughout the city had heard of the wonderful property the cloth was to possess, and all were anxious to learn how wise or how ignorant their neighbors might prove to be.
"I will send my faithful old minister to the weavers," said the emperor at last, after some deliberation. "He will be able to best see how the cloth looks, for he is a man of sense, and no one can be more suitable for his office than he is."
So the faithful old minister walked into the room where the scoundrels were working with all their might at their empty looms. "What can be the meaning of this?" thought the old man, opening his eyes very wide. "I cannot discover the least bit of thread on the looms." However, he did not express his thoughts out loud. The impostors requested him very courteously to be so good as to come nearer their looms. A loom, by the way, is something that they use to make the fabric. And then asked him whether the design pleased him, and whether the colors were not very beautiful, and at the same time pointing to the empty frames. The poor old minister looked and looked. He could not discover anything on the looms for a very good reason, because there was nothing there. "What?" thought he again. "Is it possible that I am a simpleton? I have never thought so myself, and no one must know it now if I am so. Can it be that I am unfit for my office? No, that must not be said either. I will never confess that I cannot see the stuff." "Well, Sir Minister," said one of the scoundrels, still pretending to work, "you do not say whether the stuff pleases you." "Oh, it is excellent," replied the old minister, looking at the loom through his spectacles. "This pattern and the colors, yes, I will tell the emperor without delay how very beautiful I think them." "We shall be much obliged to you," said the impostors, and then they named the different colors and described the pattern of the pretended stuff. The old minister listened attentively to their words, in order that he might repeat them to the emperor. And then the scoundrels asked for more silk and gold, saying that it was necessary to complete what they had begun. However, all the fabric and gold they were given went right into their suitcases. That's stealing again. And they continued to work with as much apparent diligence as before at their empty looms. The emperor now sent another officer of his court to see how the men were getting on, and to determine whether the cloth would soon be ready. It was just the same with this gentleman as it was with the minister. He surveyed the looms on all sides, but could see nothing at all but the empty frames. "Does not the stuff appear as beautiful to you as it did to my lord the minister?" asked the impostors of the emperor's second ambassador, at the same time making the same gestures as before and talking of the design and colors which were not there.
"I certainly am not stupid," thought the messenger. "It must be that I am not fit for any good, profitable office. That is very odd, however. No one shall know anything about it."
And so he praised the fabric he could not see, and declared that he was delighted with both colors and patterns.
"Indeed, your imperial majesty,"
said he to his emperor when he returned,
"the cloth which the weavers are preparing is extraordinarily magnificent."
The whole city was talking of the splendid cloth which the emperor had ordered to be woven at his own expense. And now the emperor himself wished to see the costly manufacture, while it was still in the loom. Accompanied by a select number of officers of the court, among whom were the two honest men who had already admired the cloth, he went to the crafty scoundrels, who, as soon as they were aware of the emperor's approach, went on working more diligently than ever, although they still did not pass a single thread through the looms.
"Is not the work absolutely magnificent?"
said the two officers of the crown already mentioned.
"If your majesty will only be pleased to look at it. What a splendid design! What a glorious color!"
And at the same time they pointed to the empty frames, for they imagined that everyone else could see this exquisite piece of workmanship.
"How is this?" said the emperor to himself. "I can see nothing. This is indeed a terrible affair. Am I a simpleton, or am I unfit to be an emperor? That would be the worst thing that could happen. The cloth is charming," said he aloud. "It has my complete approval."
And he smiled most graciously and looked closely at the empty looms, for on no account would he say that he could not see what two of the officers of his court had praised so much. All his retinue now strained their eyes, hoping to discover something on the looms, but they could see no more than the others. Nevertheless, they all exclaimed, "Oh, how beautiful!" and advised his majesty to have some new clothes made from this splendid material for the approaching procession.
"Magnificent!
Charming!
Excellent!
Excellent! Resounded on all sides, and everyone was uncommonly festive. The emperor shared in the general satisfaction, and presented the impostors with the order of the knighthood to be worn in their buttonholes, and also the title of gentlemen weavers. The scoundrels sat up the whole of the night before the day on which the procession was to take place, and had 16 lights burning so that everyone might see how anxious they were to finish the emperor's new suit. They pretended to roll the cloth off the looms, cut the air with their scissors, and sewed with needles without any thread in them. "See," cried they at last, "the emperor's new clothes all ready." And now the emperor, with all the grandees of his court, came to the weavers. And the scoundrels raised their arms as if in the act of holding something up, saying, "Here are your majesty's trousers. Here is the scarf. Here is the mantle. The whole suit is as light as a cobweb. One might fancy one has nothing on at all when dressed in it. That, however, is the great virtue of this delicate cloth."
"Yes, indeed,"
said all the courtiers, although not one of them could see anything of this exquisite manufacture. "If your imperial majesty will be graciously pleased to take off your clothes, we will fit on the new suit in front of the looking-glass." The emperor was accordingly undressed, and the rogues pretended to array him in his new suit, the emperor turning around from side to side before the looking-glass. How splendid His Majesty looks in his new clothes, and how well they fit, everyone cried out.
"What a design!
What colors! These are indeed royal robes."
The canopy, which is to be borne over your majesty in the procession, is waiting,"
announced the chief master of the ceremonies.
"I am quite ready," answered the emperor. "Do my new clothes fit well?"
asked he, turning himself around again before the looking-glass, in order that he might appear to be examining his handsome suit. The lords of the bedchamber, who were to carry his majesty's train, felt about on the ground as if they were lifting up the ends of the mantle, and pretended to be carrying something, for they would by no means betray anything like simplicity or unfitness for their office. So now the emperor walked under his high canopy in the midst of the procession, through the streets of his capital, and all the people standing by and those at the windows cried out, "Oh, how beautiful are our emperor's new clothes! What a magnificent train there is to the mantle! How gracefully the scarf hangs!" In short, no one would allow that he could not see these much admired clothes, because in doing so he would have declared himself either a simpleton or unfit for his office. Certainly, no one of the emperor's various suits had ever made so great an impression as these invisible ones. But there was a little child who was standing in front of all the grown-ups, who looked at the emperor, looked up at his father with a confused look on his face, saw that his father also had a confused look on his face, and then said very loudly, "But the emperor isn't wearing anything at all. He is naked." The father, after he overcame his initial shock of what his child had done, cried out, "Your Majesty, listen to my child, for he speaks the truth. You have been lied to." For the father was a good man who had always taught his child to tell the truth and could do no less himself, no matter the consequences. Others in the crowd, who had been previously cheering because they were afraid not to, suddenly felt very silly indeed and began to cry out, "Your Majesty, you are naked!" The emperor felt quite ashamed, for he knew the people were right. He had let his vanity get the better of his common sense. He yelled out for his soldiers to gather quickly around him in order to hide his nakedness, and as a group, they immediately headed back to the castle. However, since all of the soldiers were gathered so tightly around the emperor, it made walking normally very difficult. Everyone was forced to take baby steps, and the soldiers all tried their best to look dignified as they baby-stepped their naked emperor through the streets back to his castle. The two scoundrels had escaped during the parade. The emperor didn't even have his soldiers look for them because he knew he really had no one to blame but himself. The little child and the father were brought to the castle, where the emperor richly rewarded them for their honesty. So, in the end, the emperor learned an important lesson about vanity, and everyone learned that honesty is really, indeed, the best policy. Most everyone lived happily ever after, except the emperor, who, at heart, was a very silly man who continued to do silly things and quite embarrassed himself for the rest of his life. And that is the end of the emperor's new clothes. That was the end of the story. I don't know. I don't think I would have handled it very well if I suddenly discovered I was walking down the street through the middle of a town absolutely naked. That would be like a really bad dream. So I hope that never happens to you. Hang on, I'm sorry, my phone is buzzing again. Hang on just a second. All right, sorry. Hello? Oh, hi. Hi, Santa. You need me to do what? Okay, now, Santa, you know I am not going to fit down a chimney. No, you know I can't fit down those. No, I'll get stuck in the first one. You'll leave me there just like you did last year. No, I'm not doing it. I'll help you in the sleigh, but no, I'm not getting out of the sleigh. Nope, not doing it. All right, I'll see you soon. All right, bye-bye. Okay, all right, so back to you, and I hope you enjoyed the story, and I'll have another one for you soon. In case I don't get one out before Christmas, I hope you, James, and you, Victoria, have a wonderful Christmas, and I love you, and I'll talk to you guys soon. All right, bye-bye.